Good afternoon. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to Empower Hour, hosted by the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. We encourage all attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box to send your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Also, Empower Hour is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. Now I turn it over to BACP Commissioner Ken Meyer for us to begin.
Thank you, Stella. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first BACP Empower Hour. I'm hoping that this will begin a monthly series put on by our communications department here at BACP that brings you all sorts of webinars every single week of the year. My name is Ken Meyer, and I am the Commissioner for the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. Our goal is to help businesses and consumers get the info they need to succeed by sharing advice and stories from Chicago's entrepreneurs. In Chicago, we're known as a world-class food and drink destination. Each neighborhood of Chicago has a unique flavor and styles to its hospitality offerings. And if you're looking for the hot spot in Andersonville, for grabbing a drink and enjoying lively music, look no further than Nobody's Darling. And with me today is Angela Barnes, co-owner of Nobody's Darling. Welcome and good afternoon, Angela.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I very much appreciate you being our first Empower Hour guest, and as a member of the LGBTQ+, I think I just messed that up, community. I very much appreciate you kicking us off this June. Tell me about the evolution from you being an attorney, being a licensed lawyer, to becoming a bar owner. What made you jump from the legal business to becoming your own kind of small, women's owned business, and then in the hospitality of all industries?
Yeah, no, it really, for me, it wasn't something that was too intentional, I guess. I've been a corporate attorney for a number of years and advised businesses and and executives, and at some point you kind of feel like, well, I could do this, and as my friendship with my business partner Renata Riddle grew, mainly from golfing and then going for cocktails. This was really her idea, but I felt very confident that we both had the skill set. Right, even though we didn't have the background in this particular industry, we had the skill set to pull it off. And definitely, given the size of our bar, we thought, well, we're going to start small and see how it works out.
That's great. And what percentage do you think every day are you still using that legal training from your law school days and also just from being a practicing attorney into the kind of your small business entrepreneurship and bar ownership?
Yeah, it's once you're a lawyer, you can't get out of that mindset. That for better or for worse, I suppose. And so I think that what helps is that we try to make sure that we had set the business up properly, that we have the right processes and procedures in place. I am definitely, my business partner can tell you and my staff can tell you that I am definitely the risk manager. When I see something, I'm, kind of harping on it to make sure that we're doing the right thing and we're being compliant. So a lot of times, and not that I should get out of that mindset, but, sometimes I am probably the party pooper in the room. But I think that it's important, right? It really kind of helps you set the right framework and, for success going forward.
Well, that's great. So as an attorney, co-owner, risk manager, and I forget the other thing you just self-described yourself. How did you guys come up with this very catchy name, Nobody's Darling? I mean, it's very creative. And if nothing else, I think the name itself has got to draw some percentage every day of your clientele and business.
Yeah, it's so everyone asks us about the name. Renata and I did, we kind of did that whole touchy-feely business thing where we were sitting in a room trying to whiteboard names, and by sitting in a room, I mean her, dining room,
Right.
and and coming up with some really terrible names, right? And that, at some point, you kind of feel like that. Well, we certainly felt that the name was going to be important, right? This is something that we felt pretty passionately about, and so we wanted the name to reflect the culture that we wanted to create. Um, at some point, which is what I do when frustrated, I kind of retreated, sat to read, right? And I have a number of, books of poetry and different things like that. And I pulled, a collection by Alice Walker off the shelf,
Oh,
read,
wow. Okay.
read one of my favorite poems, which is Be Nobody's Darling. And as I reread it and, saw my little notes in the margin and all this other stuff, I was like, this is the culture, right? This is kind of that do something, and be unafraid to be bold about it and not terribly concerned with what people think about your choices. And I gave that over to Renata saying, how about Nobody's Darling? And I sent her a copy of the poem, and it really resonated with her immediately. And we knew we had it. We knew that was the name, and that was the kind of the vibe and the message we wanted to convey.
And for those of us who just picked up a pen and a piece of paper, tell us the name of the poem one more time, please, and the author.
It is, yes, it is Be Nobody's Darling by Alice Walker.
Perfect. Thank you. So for those listeners on the Zoom today, I hope everyone realizes that Nobody's Darling is a James Beard Award finalist. You may not have won the award, but the recognition itself is a prize. And what did being nominated represent to you? And tell our audience today a little bit about becoming the outstanding bar program, which is you and I were talking about a little while ago. I actually never realized was one of the categories, having also been to a James Beard Award ceremony or two. So
yeah, honestly, the nomination came out of the blue for us, and we were shocked. And as we were saying earlier, I know I did not know that this was a category, outstanding bar program. So I definitely had to research that. And both Renata and I were incredibly humbled. Getting this type of recognition, I believe it was about 8 months in, was something that we didn't, set out to do. But we kind of felt that the energy and the buzz maybe about what we were doing was really just so exciting for us and so exciting for our community. So we just, it made us, I think, kind of look alert and, even work harder to kind of promote what we were trying to accomplish in the LGBTQ community, as well as, being queer African-American, women, business owners. Just really trying to amplify some of those communities in business. So it really, I don't know, it was one of those like cherry on top. Because just the being nominated was really something for us, like this is it. We've won, because we didn't even expect to be at this point, in such a short period of time. So we intend to up our game. The people who were the other finalists, and of course I think it was Julep that won in this category. After doing research about those bars, we're probably not going to be, a $38 a drink bar ever, but definitely we can learn a lot from those other finalists.
And how do they inform you? Are you just like, do you just pick up the phone and you're like, James who? Or do you get texts, or do people like knock on the door with some suits from New York City?
they just send you an email and, just kind of, here's some information and stay tuned for more. And at that point, you're kind of off to the races.
Oh, wow. Very, very exciting. Well, congratulations. Congratulations to you and to your business partner, and also just for all the staff
Thank you.
at the bar, because, that's always what draws people back, is just having great, great people that, frequently I choose a spot because I like the bartender. Not for the drinks, but just personality. Talk to us as you start up your business. Talk to me a little bit about some of the obstacles you've come across, and the one constant we certainly are hearing every day here at the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. I know the mayor Lightfoot hears about it when she's out, and I certainly hear about it. It's just, for some reason, we've got this great, glorious city, a great nation, but no one seems to work. So anytime you go into a restaurant or a bar, or any place of business, including even here at the government, just finding good talent and just finding people that want to work, for some reason, has become a challenge. So just kind of walk us through a couple of your challenges, and I'm going to give a few more specifics as well.
Yeah, I think that, and kind of starting with staff, that was our initial challenge. Some of that just had to do, I think, with us being novices in the industry. So even though we're a 65 seat bar, we didn't anticipate kind of like all of these people coming in. So we had, I think we originally maybe staffed with 2 bartenders and 2 barbacks or something. That wasn't enough. Right. And, you really have to have a constant, not a constant flow, but enough people on the bench so that, you can really have people there on really busy nights. And then, on those nights that aren't as busy, retain staff so that they're making enough money, right? That they're like, they're able to kind of feel like, hey, this is a great opportunity for me. So as we got busier, we really have been very intentional about hiring, one very talented mixologist, but also barbacks that want to learn, right? They want to learn how to become bartenders, and then creating a culture where they really feel like they're valued. We're not, sort of at the point, we're not large enough to kind of have a huge staff. We're not, sort of that big corporate bar, but it would be great, right, to get to the point where we can, have more full-time staff and offer benefits and all of those other things, because at the end of the day, just like all, any of us, right, we want to make sure that, we can earn enough, we can, be able to really appreciate and respect the people we're working with, and, and then to have, disposable income to have fun. I mean, just all of those things. So, so that initially was a challenge, not so much anymore, because I think the word is out that, we're a pretty good environment, right, to work in.
James Byrd, semifinalist,
right.
hot spot in Chicago. You now have a lineup of people wanting to work together.
We have a lot of people, but that was a challenge. One of the things that I think, people all told us, and they were trying to be helpful, but it was very scary, just in terms of, being able to get, say, particular licenses or to do different things. And honestly, we had a very, very good experience with the Liquor Commission, just really being able to have somebody who was kind of not dedicated to us, but you know what I mean? Like somebody who we could email, get responses, ask questions, and things do take a while. It kind of is what it is. But we never felt like we don't know how to do this and we don't know how to go forward. Like we were always kind of, given the right direction to go in. And then, of course, the alderman's office was incredibly helpful when we didn't even know really what question to ask.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's just take that one step further, because you weren't quite sure what questions to ask. So having gone through now everything you went through, particularly at your startup, particularly when you were looking for the initial real estate, looking to sign the lease, how long a lease do I sign? How much should I be paying, sign for this lease? looking for your capital or business loan or other partners. Share with our viewers today just some of those lessons. We can kind of reflect back on it. A couple tips that you're not pointing out to people, or things maybe you did worry about or took maybe too seriously, or keeping you up at night. You're like, you know, at the end of the day, I didn't do too much on that.
Well, you know, there are a couple of things, and I tried to kind of separate out. There were some things that I knew just because I'm an attorney, right? I'm a business attorney, and that gave me a leg up. But even though I still made a list, right, of, you know, questions. What do we? Okay, we've identified this space, right? What are the steps that we need to go through in order to acquire this license? You know, who's going to handle the lease? Who's going, just really kind of map it out. And some of the answers we had and some we didn't. And so it was kind of like put in that matrix of, okay, we don't know the answer to this. Who should we ask? Who should we reach out to? And I think that was really very helpful for me and Renata. You know, now, you know, I can be a little bit overly something. I don't even know the word. And so, you know, I do have my Excel spreadsheets, and
You're talking to me.
right. It can drive people crazy, but it helped us stay on track. And it really did, you know, sometimes when there's so many things coming at you and you accomplish one or two of them, you exhale, not really realizing, wait, there's still 5 things, and that, you know, and these things have a timeline. So I think that the best advice in those early stages is to try to be as organized as you possibly can. And again, you're going to have some things that didn't make it on that list because you didn't know. You just didn't know to ask. If you happen to be having a conversation about one particular aspect of, you know, sort of getting up and running, and somebody mentions something, jot it down so that, you know, let me ask about this. Is this a form that I need? Where do I get it? Do I have to, you know, fill it out? Whatever else it is. That will go a long way to, you know, kind of getting you organized. I think the financing part, you know, we've talked about this before publicly, that we were in a very good position because we did not need to get capital to start. You know, we self-financed. And there are not a lot of business owners who are in that position. I have, you know, counseled businesses before, and why I know that that's such a big deal is because it can be extremely difficult. I always say that if Renata and I had walked into a bank, you know, we're 2 really intelligent women, you know, we have careers, and we had said, hey, can you give us some money to open a bar? The first question they would have said is, well, have you run a bar before?
Right.
No. So we would have
drink.
money. Right. We know how to drink, and that should be good. So that can be a huge obstacle. And so sometimes you may have to obviously look for more creative financing, the family and friends, you know, the personal savings, different things like that. And, you know, my advice to people is always be sort of err on the more conservative side, right? You know, it should be, certainly this is something that we felt passionate about, but given that it was self-financed, I wasn't interested in, you know, losing all of my savings on a bar if it didn't work out. So, you know, I think that people have to be realistic about what it is that, you know, that they can kind of, you know, gamble's the wrong word, because, you know, you're being more intentional about it, and hopefully it will pay off in terms of being successful. But, you know, certainly don't try to, you know, bankrupt yourself in trying to start a business.
Yeah. You know, last week, or, you know, it's Pride Month, so we're seeing just all sorts of various pieces in the media, news clip, even on all the cable and internet television series, you know, geared towards June being Pride Month. Of course, we always wish it would be all 12 months. But one of the media pieces last week was just about the decline in LGBTQ plus bars, or bars are kind of serving that clientele, not only in Chicago, but really kind of nationwide. And why don't you just talk from your own experiences about the importance of you deciding to open up Nobody's Darling and really promoting the LGBTQ plus culture into your bar as being a safe place, and just kind of what role that is right now for entrepreneurs in that in our community.
Yeah, no, it definitely is something. When we opened the doors to Nobody's Darling, and we began speaking with people, there was a great interest in, how this was going against the grain of a lot of lesbian bars in particular, closing nationwide. And it's interesting because, understanding that it is sort of across our community of the LGBTQ community of bars closing. You don't really notice it that much in Chicago because we have such a robust, bar scene that really caters more to gay men. And so one of the things that we thought was so important with our space, one, we were very intentional about saying it was a women-centered, women-forward space, where all people are welcome, as long as they're respectful of kind of who this space is for. And part of that is that I think sort of historically, kind of labeling oneself as a lesbian bar, that was great because we needed that space. Lesbians needed, a space that they could, sort of call their own. And I think now we don't want to be, we don't want to exclude, all queer women sort of on, on that spectrum of queerness. And we also don't want to, exclude trans women. We don't, we want to include as opposed to exclude. And in being inclusive, we're also creating, I think, a very comfortable and safe environment for a lot of people. Where we are, both, sort of geographically and sort of culturally, we have a lot of, right, so sort of Andersonville, but off the beaten path, right? We're not on Clark Street, we're on Balmoral. We're surrounded by homes and, in condos. And so we have a lot of neighborhood people who, who are allies, who love the space because, we are trying to make sure that, everyone does feel comfortable. So it was just important for us to, to build something that Renata and I, as, queer Black women who have gone out for years, and maybe not always felt comfortable, to build a space that we felt comfortable and that we wanted to just kind of, embrace everyone.
Yeah, no, that's great. And on that same topic of being inclusive, talk to us a little bit about the fact that you've really gone out of your way to make sure that you are reaching out to LGBTQ plus and Black entrepreneurs to help you provide your various ingredients for the beautiful, delicious drinks, and just making sure that you're helping that supply chain, so to speak, within all the communities. And I think that's remarkable. As I mentioned to you before, the pink pages are kind of like long gone. We used to always have pink pages as our Bible. So if you need a plumber, gosh, if you got yourself locked out of your house, you need to look for the gay LGBT plus locksmith. So tell me how. So that's gonna be a little bit trickier nowadays. Tell me how that tell us about that.
Yeah, no, it was something, and definitely something that Renata felt strongly about. She had more of an understanding of, how to work with distributors. And, we had talked about, as we were coming up with the menu and, so coming up with some names of different drinks, we wanted to be intentional about supporting the sort of that intersection of our community, right? LGBTQ, we're Black, we're women. And, the way we thought was best to do it was to tell the distributors, hey, when you're coming and, kind of pitching these, various brands and different things, spirits, we want to make sure you bring some that are African-American owned, women owned, LGBTQ owned. And we've had a great, response to that, right? I mean, they've shown up.
Yeah.
And really that has been very helpful for us. One of our initial managers, she really was very helpful in getting us set up and started work for Uncle Nearest. And Uncle Nearest is, of course, the African-American owned bourbon. So it just kind of started that way, where we thought it was such an important thing to do, but we also thought it was a really cool thing, that we could, as somebody's enjoying a cocktail, talk about, hey, I don't know if you know, but this vodka that we're using, Playpen, is owned, African-American owned by two brothers. And they're coming in on Thursday to, I don't know, make drinks or something like that. So I do think that it's important for business owners to, make sure that they're reaching out to others in the community to help support and kind of spread the word. It gives us, it just gives us kind of a leg up in certain circumstances where a lot of times we might have been excluded or overlooked.
Yeah, no, that's great. Knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently when you first started out? I know you answered this a little bit, but just as you've been kind of talking us through all the way leading up to where you are today.
Yeah, it's, honestly, again, we couldn't have anticipated, I don't think, the kind of response that we had. And I think that if we had been a little more prepared in terms of staffing, I think that would have been very helpful. And, just from my perspective, I'm going to say this and my age will show, but, we have some fantastic people on staff, as well as my business partner, who are far more savvy with marketing and social media. And I probably should have been a little more up to date on that. So that's,
well, we know the leases are signed, the contracts are done. So leave the marketing up to someone else.
That's right.
June is Pride Month, as we all know. How are you and Nobody's Darling celebrating? But before you even answer that question, because you gave Ellis Walker a great shout out, why don't you give yourself a shout out? How do we find Nobody's Darling? What's your address, hours, what's the website? And then you can go ahead and tell us how you're celebrating Pride Month.
Okay, the best way to find us, we do have a website. It's nobodiesdarlingbar.com. We are also on Instagram at Nobody's Darling Bar. We're located physically 1744 West Balmoral, and that is at Balmoral and Ravenswood. So open Wednesday through Sunday. So we rest on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Good, yeah. And anything unique or different for the month of June as we all celebrate Pride around the country, or just,
Yeah, we're definitely having various performers, drag queens, drag kings. So for a brunch, I believe in 2 weeks on Sunday. And then we're also you can check out our website as well as our Instagram, where we will be announcing, various like fun things that are happening for Pride. So as always, we just want to make sure that, we're just open and there for, our community. So really stay tuned for some really interesting things.
And I noticed when I was on the website, you also have a mock cocktail.
Yes.
Zero alcohol. Just explain that a little bit, just for those who may want to experience Nobody's Darling, but may not necessarily want to have an alcoholic libation.
We actually have, and we've even improved them. We have about 4 or 5 mocktails. So really take that very seriously because, we have a lot of people who want to come out and just be with community, but they don't drink, and, they don't know what to order. So we've made some fantastic cocktails for them. So.
And my last question before we kind of open up to those who want to put a question in the chat, as this webinar is entitled Empower Hour, please share a piece of advice that can empower our attendees.
Yeah, I would definitely say if there is a business you want to start, something that you want to do, be intentional about it. Try to be as organized as you can, but go for it. right? Do it. And it's amazing what Renata and I have seen that's come out of our community about being supportive, and really reaching out to say, what do you need? And how can we help you? So there are people who are out there to help guide you. So, just do it.
Great. Stella, do we have any questions from our attendees?
We do have one. Would
Go
you
for it.
recommend getting some background instruction before starting a business?
Yeah, I definitely would. I mean, I think that the really great part is that there are resources that exist via the city that really can help you get those basics. And as I said, putting together that matrix. What do I need? What do I know? And what are those things that I don't know, and who do I need to reach out to get answers? Don't be afraid also to hire experts, right? The number of people who say, well, a lawyer's too expensive or an accountant is too expensive. What really kind of kills you is that you didn't kind of set things up correctly in the beginning. So, don't be afraid. Budget for hiring experts.
That's great. Any other questions, Stella?
Looks like we have one more.
Great.
You mentioned that getting financial help from family and friends is a good way to raise money. Can you elaborate on how to make that ask?
Yeah, the way in which I think is really important is to take your business seriously, right? So it isn't, just asking, your brother or your sister or, cousin for $10,000. And it's being very intentional about saying, here's what I'm trying to do. This is the way I'm going to structure my business. The $10,000 is an investment in that business. And, you're not promising somebody any returns, but, you're really showing them that you're going to, that this is meaningful to you. I think that, also kind of bringing family or friends into, what your vision is extremely helpful, in getting them to also recommend support for what you're trying to do. You often find out that they know somebody, right, who can really help you. So just be very professional about it. I think that that's what's important.
Yeah. Anything else from the chat box, Stella?
I think we have one more. It's a really good question. Are you mentoring next generation LGBTQ business owners?
Very good question.
That's a good one. We are trying. We are absolutely trying. Right now, I would definitely say that we're being very supportive of artists because we're able to kind of lend our space to their art and just show support to them. But we are also, as we have pop-ups for food, because we do not prepare food, we try to identify LGBTQ owned vendors who can sort of come in, and it really kind of opens up their product, right, to sometimes an audience that wouldn't necessarily have heard of them or know about them. So always looking for ways to be supportive, and sitting down with people, even just at the bar, answering questions is what's extremely important to me and Renata.
Angela, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being our first of what we hope to be a long time series, Empower Hour. Very much appreciate it. And I'm also appreciative to your business partner and your entire team. And for those listening, just so you know, Nobody's Darling is open all 12 months. Certainly come in and see them during the great Pride month of June, but we also want to make sure we're seeing them all year round. Don't go on Monday and Tuesday because they're closed, but every other day of the week, 1744 West Balmoral. And for all of you, thank you so much for joining us today. And I always encourage you to visit chicago.gov/business education. Again, chicago.gov/business education. We'll see a whole list of our various Wednesday and Friday webinars. We always have various webinars on how to pass your inspections, how to find some capital. We now are on Thursdays are going to be once a month. We'll be doing the Empower Hour. So Angela, thank you. Thank you again. Thanks everyone for listening. And I will see you guys next month. Thanks.
Thank you.